And yes, like everyone else, got to mention Australia Day, a couple of days away from here. Now, as we know, this is cast by many on Twitter as some sort of white pride day. Please grow up. I like that modern Australia Day starts with smoking ceremonies, recognition of the longest continuous culture, tens of thousands of years. It is part of Australia Day, and it starts every single time with a recognition of what was here before. We also essentially treat the day like they do with Recreation Day in the northern half of Tasmania when they get a public holiday, because in the southern half of Victoria, southern part of Tasmania, they get Regatta Day, which is people hanging up, hang out with people, play backyard cricket. They simply enjoy the chance to be around each other. But most people actually associate Australia Day these days with tens of thousands of people who join the greatest club in the world, this one. I love that people like my grandmother, like hopefully members of your family, maybe even you yourself. Today, that's the day, Australia Day, when you decide to become a citizen. But we all know what trajectory all of this is on for obvious reasons, because the left must win at all times. But exactly which part of the left is it that is demanding changes here? Now, they, I would argue, hate a national day at all. I don't know why, but they hate a national day at all. Have a look at this polling that was around today, which is about what is Australia Day by party identity. 76% of LNP voters say that it is Australia Day, January the 26th. 65% of Labor voters say Australia Day is January the 26th. But 44% of Greens voters say that Australia Day is January 26th. Instead, what ends up happening? Well, surprise, surprise, Invasion Day, just 24% of Liberal voters, 35% of Labor, and 56% of Greens voters say that it's Invasion Day. So we know from what part of the political spectrum this view comes, but because so much of the media votes that way, or certainly gives a lot more attention to that than the 10% represented by One Nation, Palmer United, Liberal Democrats, or anyone else, we know how they're playing. But you can play a role here in Australia Day. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. I know what I want to not change in the next few years. But we hear all the time about companies that are folding all the time to things to do with Australia Day. So here's what you can do. If your local pub, if your local cafe, if your local council mark Australia Day, say thank you. Say thank you on their Facebook page. Write an email to the manager to say thank you for recognising our National Day. Now, again, it's not a celebration of white pride. It's an understanding of it being a celebration of the greatest modern experiment in the world. One of a free country that people by their tens of thousands want to join every single year. Say thank you. But because much of the media that you pay for, regardless of whether you watch it or not, unlike this forum of which you choose to pay for and watch, we do appreciate it, the ABC over and over, their big angle this year is to talk about the number of employees that are going to be able to take the day off later in the year, rather than on January the 26th. Stories over and over again. They constantly are the ones having the conversation, putting Lydia Thorpe on, Greens on all day, every day. And how are they rewarded for this? By the Australia Day Council? By giving them the broadcast rights to the Australian of the Year Awards. Makes perfect sense, right? Let's sidle up to the very organisation that is doing all and everything it can to mainstream the idea of getting rid of a national day. But what can you do? Say thank you to any and every organisation. Remind them that the majority of their customers in the absolute mainstream of Australian politics recognise the day, recognise for what it is in 2023, understand what was here on the 25th of January in 1788, and understand that our future is a blank page together.